Welcome again into my live, guys. Welcome. Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's having a great morning. Thanks to those of you who came into the reading this morning. And here I am. I'm going to be finishing the reading of the book Grace Under Fire by the lovely Julie Garwood. Now, we have been reading this book for way too long now. But that's how it is. Those of you who are avid readers like myself know that's how it is. Life usually gets in the way of reading a book, unless you are still a teenager where you can stay and read. Like when I was a teenager, I would read and read and read and read and read non-stop. No wash no face, no wash no plate, no wash no clothes, no carry no water, nothing. Just reading, reading, hiding and reading. But know that life is lifing and I have a lot of other things to do. I can't just sit down and read all day because I got other things to do. So I'm just doing what I do and I'm getting it in as much as I can. So I want to say welcome. Thank you all so much for coming back to join me. We are on the last leg of this book. I don't know if today we can finish it. Maybe, maybe not. But in any case, we are going to try to read in it as much as we possibly can. I see Yard Foods roll up in the place. Happy Thursday to you, Yard Foods. Blessings. I see AG roll up in the place. AG. How Julie doing after all of that? What's up, AG? Bless up yourself. Bless up yourself, AG. Good to see you. Thank you so much for coming. As always, my love, I appreciate your love and support. I appreciate you. And here comes my brother, Jamaica Farmers Hut is in the place. Blessing. Jamaica Farmers Hut, how are you doing, my love? So good to see you. Thank you so much for stopping by, as always. I appreciate you. I thank you so much. Jamaica Farmers Hut. Let me see how far I am on all of your on your playlist. Let's see, Jamaica Farmers. Oh, because you know Jamaica Farmers. Watcha. Cause you know say I've been I've been running you nicely on my Steel News account. Let me see where you're there now. Let me see if I have any any more left to run on this for you. Let's see. Hold on a second. And this is Jamaica Farmers Hut with pineapple. All right. Jamaica Farmers Hut. Jamaica Farmers Hut is right there. Jamaica Farmers Hut. May I check out your playlist, my love? Come in, know, say me run your playlist. I've been running your playlist like wow. So let me see how far we are into it. And this is on my other account, my Steel News account. All right, so this playlist, everything now run off it. Okay, so these are some lives, 3 hours, 4 hours. All right, let me see if you have anything else. The new uploads. Mm, new uploads. Okay, so new uploads. Stop at. Look what happened inside the pumpkin. All right, I could see that. What's happened inside the pumpkin. All right, everything else run already. Look what happened inside the pumpkin. All right, are you that? Are you that Jamaica Farmers Hut? I don't know if me I go see what happened inside of your pumpkin. But me have it right here, so I go keep looking. But you know you're not gonna see me comment because while I'm reading, I'm not commenting, but I just gotta make sure I give all of my supporters some support as well. And this is one way to get it done. The lovely Yard Foods. Let me see what Yard Foods is up to. Yard Foods playlist. This one is Yard Foods 125. I probably run all of them there already. Okay, no. All right. So Yard Food, this is you. Oh, them alive here like 4, 5, 6 hours. All right. This is Yard Foods. So what is broad bean? Broad bean and what? Okay. All right, Yard Foods. You're going with yourself, right? That's so. So there you are, Sister Yard Foods. All right. So we got those out of the way. We got those out of the way. So we are going to continue with the reading right now. Watch there, yeah, pumpkin for kill. You have the answer for your water, what pumpkin belly. Good Lord. You see, I'm sure the cup of the ox coconut. And so me I go to do ox two coconut when me done. Me I go run one live when me done. And cut the coconut them. But by the way, hold on them, ma. What is not this? Then come from ma. I see him, so me say. Let me dip on my life. So go on. Me dip on me deed. All right, ma, later me talk to you. Yeah, you go give me a good show. All right. But I say nothing else. Okay, guys. All right, we are gonna read my book. Yes, sir. My watch hours coming up. Yard Foods. Auntie Trebe here don't give no stress. No stress. No stress, sister. Don't look Auntie Treb, don't care. I do what I do. When I do watch, anybody don't watch, no watch. Just me. I ain't counting, I ain't checking, I ain't doing none of that. I come here, I read, I come here, I do my live, I chat, and I keep it moving. Me not pay YouTube, mind. I mean, I know. I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know. But anywho, we are going to be reading this book, Grace Under Fire. For those of you who have been with us as we have been reading, you would have known that Isabel and Michael are currently in Scotland. They have had quite a bit of adventure. They're in they have had quite a bit of adventure over there in Scotland because Isabel was kidnapped by Clive Orcus's mother, and that was an adventure. And then the groundsman, he tried to take out Isabel and Michael, and that was another adventure. And then they realized that one of the men who they have trusted, he has been in cahoots with Orcus in trying to ensure that Isabel does not get to take possession of the land that her uncle died and left for her. So it's quite an adventure with them there. Michael is there with Isabel, thank God. He's keeping her safe. He's trying to ensure that they get back to Boston alive, both of them. And if he leaves himself up to stubborn Isabel, he might not get back. But Michael has it locked. He has it under control. And so we are going to continue reading to see if and when they get to leave Scotland and return to Boston. Chapter 38. It was time to go home. Isabel had mixed feelings about leaving the Highlands. It was such a beautiful land, and the people who lived there were kind and gracious, except for the few who tried to kill her, of course, but they were the exception to the rule. She and Michael met with Donald Gladstone one last time to go over details of the transfer of Glen McKenna. He had hired a new groundskeeper and told Isabel he knew the man, that he was honest and hardworking and would do a good job. Isabel agreed to stay in contact with Gladstone by email and phone and told him if any problems developed, she was confident he could handle them. After the meeting, they drove to Inverness, returned the car to the rental agency, and headed to the airport. Once again, Noah came through for them and arranged for 2 seats in first class. A teenage girl waiting to check in, recognized Isabel and asked for an autograph and a photograph. Isabel was happy to accommodate her and was pleased because the girl didn't make a big deal about it and didn't scream. Hey Joe, what's up? How are you doing? As she and Michael were walking towards their gate, she said, I told you my so-called fame would be fleeting and that it would all calm down. Grinning, she added, and I was right. Only one person asked for my photo. In another week, I'll be all but forgotten. Michael had stopped and was looking over her head. Uh-oh, he drawled. I did say it would go away. Don't you remember? I remember, he said with a hint of a smile. What are you looking at? She turned around, gasped, and took a hasty step back. In front of her was a small kiosk filled with bottled water, juice, and soft drinks. There was also a rack filled with popular weekly rag magazine, and there Isabel was, smack dab on the cover. Xavier was with her. Oh my God. So somebody got a picture of Isabel with Xavier and have it on the front of a magazine? Mm. Xavier was by her side. They're really trying to pull off a narrative there. He had his arm around her waist, and the two of them were staring into the camera. The photo, the photo must have been at the concert. Jeb, I'm a wonderful. I'm going to bless myself. Go ahead, my love. Have yourself a great day, my darling. Oh, no, 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 she whispered. She wanted to run to the gate, but Michael took her hand and kept walking. With her head down, she reached their gate just as the first class passengers were welcomed aboard. Okay, she exhaled. Now I'm calm again. Michael put his arm around her shoulders and gave a reassuring pat. Her face looked as though it was on fire. Sure you are, he agreed. Michael don't want any surprises when they reach Boston. He knew that Nick and Noah were back home in Boston to attend a seminar and would be happy for a break. He texted both of them and asked for help when he and Isabel got off the plane. He was concerned there might be a crowd waiting for her. Thanks to Nick and Noah and their connections, Isabel and Michael were ushered through the terminal to a private door and got out of the airport without much fuss at all. Isabel had planned to spend the night at the Hamilton Hotel. She had made the reservation from Donruss, but all three men insisted she stay on Nathan's Bay. No one could get to her there. Isabel was quiet on the drive. How was she going to get back to Silver Spring? Flying commercial was out of the question, for now, anyway. Michael noticed her worried expression and asked, What's the matter? I'm trying to figure out how I can get home. I shouldn't fly to Silver Springs. I shouldn't fly to Silver Springs tomorrow. No, you shouldn't, he agreed. I'll cancel the reservation. I suppose I could rent a car and drive. All three men shouted, No, not at this time. Neither Nick nor Noah had driven with Isabel, but they had both heard enough hair-raising stories to know she shouldn't drive anywhere. Nick was diplomatic. It's not safe when you're exhausted. You just came back from a long, stressful trip. Noah nodded. He's right. Driving such a long distance would wipe you out. Take it easy for a couple of days. And then what? I'm not 90. A good night's sleep and I'll be fine. Michael was blunt. You are a horrible driver, Isabel. He took hold of her hand and squeezed, letting her know he didn't want an argument. But I, terrible, he repeated forcefully. She was beginning to think he might be right, but she would go to her grave before she admitted it to him. There had been signs, she supposed. Passengers tended to scream when she was driving. Even calm, in control Michael had done a fair amount of shouting while she was driving him to Nathan's Bay. Maybe she needed glasses. She thought about that possibility for a couple of minutes and decided she just might. She couldn't remember the last time she had an eye exam. She did pass the driving test. Still, she decided that when she got back to Silver Springs, she would make an appointment. Like it or not, she was going to have to fly home. Hopefully, she could find a very early or very late flight when the airport wouldn't be so crowded. It was a foolish wish because Boston's Logan Airport was always buzzing, but it was the only choice she had. She pictured herself running the gauntlet to her gate and cringed. Then she gave herself a pep talk and decided she could handle anything or anyone who got in her way. I'm tougher than I look, she announced. Yes, you are, Michael agreed. A few minutes later, she asked, why would anyone want to be famous? She sounded so bewildered, Michael wished he had a good answer for her. Some people crave fame, he said. Noah concurred. They love the adulation. Well, I don't. We know, Nick said. That's yet another reason we all love you. Listen to what you are reading. It's a long time people are down each carrying down each other. Nothing is new in today's world, my love. Nothing is new. Everything is just a repeat of what happened years ago. By the time they reached Nathan's Bay, all Isabel wanted was a big glass of water and a bed. Michael had decided to sleep in one of the larger bedrooms with a king-size bed, but Isabel chose to sleep in the room on the third floor. It was cozy and comfortable. She fell into bed, closed her eyes, and was sound asleep seconds later. Following breakfast the next morning, Isabel had just opened her laptop and was looking for flights to Silver Springs when Judge Buchanan walked into the kitchen and invited her into his office for a sit down. She knew what that meant. Dylan would say those very words whenever he wanted a private conversation with Kate or her. And once they were alone, he would begin by insisting that he wasn't going to tell her what to do, when, in fact, he ended up doing just that. The judge was much more diplomatic. He asked her questions that made her reevaluate her decision to fly home right away. He suggested she stay for at least a week, preferably two. Meet with the entertainment attorneys on Nathan's Bay. They should come to her, not the other way around, he insisted. And if she wanted, he would read the contract before she signed anything. It was an offer she couldn't turn down. The day was productive. She talked to Xavier for over an hour. He knew the two attorneys Nick had recommended and told her they were both honest and ethical, which was a rarity in the business, he claimed. He wanted to record one of her songs as soon as possible, and she gave him permission to go ahead. They would work out they would work out the details later. They settled on an amount. She thought it was way too much, and within the hour, the money was deposited in her account. It seemed to Isabel that every minute in Xavier's life was scheduled. He couldn't work on recording with her for at least 10, maybe 12 weeks, but she promised she would be available. All she needed was the time and the place. Xavier didn't seem to be in a hurry to end the call. He explained before she could ask, "Talking to you helps me relax. Aren't you getting any sleep?" "Not much," he admitted. "I've been working hard lately. I'd like to think about something other than music for a few minutes. Tell me, are you involved with Michael Buchanan?" Ooh. Oh, let's see where this is going to lead to. The question jarred her. "What makes you think I would be involved with him?" "The way he looked at you, and the way you looked at him the night at the concert. But you were only with him, with us for a few minutes. So are you?" She laughed. "I don't know." Before he could ask any more probing questions, she changed the subject. "Want to hear about my trip in the Highlands? It might put you to sleep." "Sure, tell me all about it." He didn't sound enthusiastic, and she thought she heard him yawn. "Do you like clowns?" "What?" She repeated the question and then told him all about her encounter with Freya Arcas and the freaky-looking clown painting that resembled the woman. When she described the drive up the mountain and how Freya had jumped out of the car screaming profanities, Xavier couldn't stop laughing. "It really wasn't funny at all," she insisted. When he calmed down, he said, "It's the way you told it. The next time I'm feeling wiped out, I'm going to call you and ask you to tell me about the clown look-alike." Glad I could help. After talking to Xavier, she was in a good mood. Not just good, but a great mood. Then Michael came along and ruined it. She was sitting in the sunroom writing questions she wanted to be sure to ask the attorneys she would be interviewing when Michael walked in and said those four dreaded words, "We need to talk." She guessed there was no getting out of it. She knew this was coming. They were back in Boston, and Michael needed to get on with his life. As to that, so did she. She wondered how he would react if she declined, then decided to find out. Maybe later. Ha ha ha! He smiled as he pulled her to her feet. "Let's go for a walk." He didn't let go of her hand, and he didn't say another word until they had walked all the way down to the shore and were headed back. They stopped beneath the giant tree with the arched branches she loved. The sun was setting, the breeze was light and warm, and Isabel thought it might be a perfect evening if Michael wasn't glaring at her. "You and I," he began, then looked across the bay as though searching for his words in the distance. "Yes?" His eyes returned to hers. "It's been real intense." She nodded. "It has been intense, but wonderful too," she thought. "We were thrown into a situation where it was just the two of us." When he paused again, she thought he was waiting for her to agree. "Yes, we were thrown together, and I was constantly throwing myself at you." She smiled as she added, "You really didn't stand a chance. But now that we're back in Boston, I what?" "You didn't stand a chance." After making that statement, she turned and tried to walk away. She didn't want to continue the conversation because she knew where it was heading. Same old, same old. He was breaking up with her again, but this time with more finesse. He grabbed her hand and pulled her back. "Isabel, what I'm trying to say is that I have my future all mapped out, but I don't think you do. You are just starting. You need time to figure out what you want, to know what's real and what isn't. I need time away from you." "Yes," he said with a firm nod. "You need time away from me too, don't you, Michael?" "Yes, I do." As much as she wanted to agree, she knew he was right. They did need time apart. She knew her feelings for Michael weren't going to change, but he definitely needed time to realize he was in love with her. She took a deep breath and said, "When are you leaving?" "Soon. I've got to finish up a couple of things with the Navy, and one of my SEAL brothers needs some legal advice." They walked side by side to the house. "I'll be staying here for a week or so, and then on to Silver Springs." Michael opened the door. turned to her and kissed her. She thought maybe that was his goodbye. Dinner was a quiet affair. Mrs. Buchanan had gone to the book club meeting, and Michael was also absent, so Isabel dined alone with the judge. Since Lucy wouldn't let her help with dishes, Isabel headed to her room. But first, she wanted to find Michael and ask him how long she was supposed to take to figure out her future. Would he call her, or did he expect her to call him? Hell, hell would freeze over before she did. We know how stubborn Isabel is. Isabel is not going to be calling Michael. Michael is stubborn himself. So let's see who's going to make the first call. She checked his room and there was no sign of him. Even his travel bag was gone. He really had left, hadn't he? Later that night, she stood at the window in her bedroom. The moon was bright and she could see the waves dancing against the rocks. She was going to miss Nathan's Bay. She was going to miss all the Buchanans, too. Most of all, she was going to miss Michael. Parting is such sweet sorrow. The line from Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet came to mind. In the play, Juliet tells Romeo good night and says their parting is sorrowful, but it is also sweet between the two lovers because the two lovers can look forward to the next time they will be together. Shakespeare's words made parting seem so romantic. Shakespeare was a schmuck. Chapter 39. What was the protocol after a breakup? If, in fact, it was a breakup. Isabel's chaotic thoughts were bouncing back and forth like a tennis ball. Did he break up with her or didn't he? She had loved only one man and had possibly been dumped by him, but Isabel wasn't experiencing the headache, outrage, melancholy, or depression, to name a few of the emotions her friends had gone through. She supposed everyone's reaction was different. Some were extreme. One of Lexi's sorority sisters had stalked her ex-boyfriend for months before she moved on, and there was another woman who recently made the news when she tried to run over her ex with her SUV. She was going to spend the next 10 or 20 years getting over him. Isabel wasn't feeling any of those emotions. She wasn't weepy like Lexi when Jason broke up with her, or melancholy like Joanne when Ryan, the man she thought she loved, dumped her. Isabel was irritated with Michael, but that was it. She didn't want to run over him with a car. Not yet, anyway. Maybe it was because a part of her believed he really was giving her time to think about her future and her feelings. He was going to think about his feelings too. Yeah, right. Michael thinking or talking about feelings, not possible. While she was at Nathan's Bay, the two entertainment attorneys she had contacted came out to talk to her. The men couldn't have been more different. One of them was full of ideas on how to make her a huge star. He talked a mile a minute and had the energy and enthusiasm needed to get her to the top. She wouldn't soon forget the look on his face when she explained she didn't want to become a star. He appeared flabbergasted. Nick liked him because he was a great attorney with a stellar reputation. He was also part of a large agency in Los Angeles with offices in New York and Miami. It was so prestigious. Talent fought to get it. The other attorney she talked to was Jason Westerfield. His agency's only office was in Los Angeles. There were four other agents in the firm. He talked to her for a long while, explaining what he could do for her and listened to what she wanted. Really listened. Nick had gone to law school with Jason. He told Isabel Jason was brilliant and he highly recommended him. It didn't take long for her to make a decision. She chose Jason Westerfield. She needed calm in her life and he fit the bill. He would guide her in her career, but he wouldn't pressure her to do anything she didn't want to do. Getting back to Silver Springs turned out to be tricky but doable. She flew out of a small airport outside of Boston and landed at an even smaller airport halfway between Savannah and Silver Springs. Kate and Dylan were waiting for her. She fell asleep in the back seat of their car while Dylan talked about the remodel of the house. The events of the last few weeks had been exhausting, but she hadn't realized just how tired she was until she was back home. As soon as she caught up on sleep, she went to work. She had made a list of what she wanted to get accomplished before she met with Xavier. Her priority was to get all her songs uploaded. She would have to listen to each song and make necessary changes first, which meant she was going to be kept busy and wasn't and wouldn't have time to think about Michael. She didn't expect him to call her for at least 2 weeks. He was giving her time to think, and yet with each day that passed, she became a little more annoyed. After 3 full weeks without a word, her irritation reached its peak. Was she fooling herself? Had he moved on? And if so, shouldn't she do the same thing? Her misery was her own fault. She never should have allowed herself to fall in love with him in the first place. Luckily, there was plenty for her to do. She had talked to Donald Gladstone several times about the progress with Glenn McKenna. He told her he was working with the National Trust and the negotiations for the donation of the land were going well. He also told her she had become somewhat of a hero in Dunross. According to Gladstone, the people of Dunross were crediting her with ridding them of the Harcus menace. Now that Arcus Dew and Grammy Gibson were behind bars, the entire area was breathing a sigh of relief. Isabel tried to downplay her part in the arrest, but he insisted she was being modest. Nonsense, he told her. Without you, people here would still be under their thumb. Everyone, especially the tenants of Glen McKenna, hope you will return soon so they can thank you properly. She promised she would just as soon as her life settled down, though she didn't know how long that was going to take. She finally got around to going to the ophthalmologist for an eye exam and discovered that she was nearsighted and didn't have much depth perception. She picked out a pair of black frames and another pair of tortoise shell frames. The specialist explained she didn't have to wear them all the time, just when she wanted to drive, or read, or see. When she wasn't working on her song, she spent a lot of time on video chats with Damon, Owen, Lexi, and Joanne. They caught her up on their lives, and she told them all about Scotland, but she didn't say anything about her relationship with Michael. It was too raw. Besides, she didn't know what the relationship was. Despite her determined efforts to forget, Michael was never far from her sight. 4 full weeks and not one word from him. What was the matter with that man? She knew he loved her. Why was it taking him so long to realize it? Maybe he was never going to realize it. As soon as the thought wiggled its way into her head, she erased it. She had faith in Michael, maybe more than he had in himself. Eventually, he would realize he loved her and would come to her. Meanwhile, she was going to keep busy writing songs. Late on a Tuesday evening, Isabel was working on polishing an old song and changing some of the lyrics. Dylan and Kate had gone out with friends, and she had been at it for hours. As she sat at the piano in the living room singing the new version, she was unaware of the audience behind her. Dylan was leaning against the doorway with his arm around Kate. Her head was on his shoulder, and her eyes were closed as she listened to the captivating melody. That was beautiful, Isabel, Kate said. I love it. Startled by the voice, Isabel spun around. You do? I thought it was good, but then I started doubting. It's perfect, Dylan commented as he started up the stairs. I'm going to bed. You coming, Kate? I'm right behind you, she promised. Isabel, you should go to bed too. You look exhausted. Have you been working on this song all evening? Isabel nodded, and most of the day. I wanted to finish it before I left for Los Angeles. Why are you going to Los Angeles? Damon is giving. Damon is going to propose to Mia. He wants me to come to the engagement party. I wouldn't dare miss it. He's already booked a ballroom at the Sienna Hotel. That hotel is pretty exclusive and elegant. Is he planning to propose at the party? No, before. She better say yes. I think she will. They love each other. When are you going? Kate asked, jumping into worry mode. Thursday? That's the day after tomorrow. Who's going with you? You should have security. I've got it covered. You're sure? Absolutely. Lying to Kate was easy because Isabel knew if she told her sister the truth, she would worry all the more. Isabel didn't plan on taking anyone with her. She was going by herself, and she didn't expect any trouble. If she were going to Los Angeles to perform with Xavier, she would need bodyguards to get to and from the venue. But this was a simple trip to see friends. She was certain no one would bother her. She was excited to see everyone. She packed enough clothes for a week, adding two dresses her Aunt Nora would say were too racy. She couldn't make up her mind which dress she would wear to the party, so she took them both. One was the black dress from the Buchanan party. That had been a disaster. Maybe this time, if she wore it to Damon and Mia's party, she'd have better luck and the night would end on a happier note. Wednesday, her LA attorney called and asked to meet with her at her hotel on Friday. He wanted to hire a security team to watch out for her while she was performing. There was one agency he considered superior to all the others, and he wanted her to meet with the CEO, who was Stephen Carr. Although she agreed to talk to him, she hoped she would never need his team. She wanted to stay out of the public eye and off the stage, and if she was to accomplish that, it wouldn't take long for her fans to move on. There was only one problem with her plan: Xavier. He had done at least a dozen interviews before leaving for his European tour, and in each interview he mentioned Isabel or was asked about her. Despite her discomfort with all the notoriety coming her way, Isabel felt she was coping quite well. But that all changed on Wednesday night when Lexi sent her a link with a note. Have you seen this? Curious, she watched the interview. The particularly nosy reporter asked Xavier one last question. If Isabel asked you to marry her, would you? Xavier looked into the camera, smiled that killer smile of his, and said, in a heartbeat. Isabel was neither thrilled nor flattered. She was mortified. Were the paparazzi, with their cameras flashing in her face, going to be chasing her along with all the crazy fans now? Would anyone want to know if she was going to marry Xavier? And if not, why not? Because of Xavier's last interview, attending the party took on an extra degree of planning. She was going to have to get security for the trip after all, she supposed, and that meant bringing in the big guns. She was going to dump it all on Dylan. Fortunately, Kate was out for the evening, and I wouldn't interfere with the arrangements. If she had her way, Isabel would be surrounded by armed guards and she'd be wearing a bulletproof vest. She was tenacious, and Isabel knew she would eventually wear her down. Nagging was Kate's superpower. Since Isabel was going to stay at the newly expanded Hamilton Hotel, Dylan called their head of security. Come to find out, Reagan had already talked to security and hired a driver for Isabel. They were all quietly taking care of her, and she was humbled by their thoughtfulness. She didn't know how she could ever repay them. All of the Buchanans had stepped forward to help her. Had Dylan talked to Michael about any of this? Probably not, she decided. 4 weeks and 5 days. Michael had left her exactly 4 weeks and 5 days ago. Not that she was counting. She hadn't asked Dylan or any of the other Buchanans what Michael was up to, but she thought it was odd that Dylan hadn't mentioned him to her, not once at all this time. Why was it taking Michael so long to figure it all out? Loving someone like Michael took patience and stamina, and she was running out of both. She vowed she wasn't going to worry about him while she was in LA. She was ready to have some fun, even if it or her. You all know what I mean. OMG, Isabel. Isabel, you're out of control. She was gonna have some fun in LA, even if it KILLED her. Oh my God. Chapter 40. Guys, I think I'm trying to read off this book today. It has, I think, 42 chapters. Isabel's stay in Isabel's stay in San Diego had lasted longer than no, not Isabel, chapter 40, not Isabel&Michael. Michael's stay in San Diego had lasted longer than he expected. The trial that had resulted from a SEAL's brother PTSD episode had dragged on, but in the end had come to a favorable conclusion. Michael was grateful his friend's wife had called him for help and legal advice. His friend was now going to get the treatment and support he needed. Michael was finally ready to pack up and head back to Boston. But first things first. He had let her have those last few weeks to think about what she wanted. He had had time to think too, and there was no way around it. He couldn't see a future without her. He called to schedule a flight, and then he called Isabel. There was no answer. He waited a few minutes and tried again. Still no answer. Impatient, he called Dylan. His brother answered immediately. Michael didn't waste time on pleasantries. I need to talk to Isabel. Hi, Michael, Dylan said. Where are you? San Diego. I'm taking a flight back to Boston this afternoon. Did you finish helping with that legal? Michael interrupted. Yes, I did. I need to talk to Isabel. Why did it take you so long? A friend needed some help. I really need to talk to Isabel. She isn't here. When will she be back? I honestly don't know. Hold on. Let me ask Kate. He came back to the phone a minute later. She didn't know. What the hell? I've got a crazy idea. If you want to talk to Isabel, why don't you call her? Her phone's turned off. Do you know where she went? Los Angeles. Los Angeles, he repeated. That's right. She's staying at the Hamilton Hotel. Reagan made the reservation for her. She's such a sweetheart, isn't she? Yeah, sweetheart, he said impatiently. But why? Why what? Dylan was deliberately being obtuse. He could hear Michael's frustration coming through the phone. Why did she fly to LA in the first place? The party? Dylan, quit screwing with me. There's a lot of parties tonight at the Sienna Hotel. She flew all the way out there for a party? Yes. Why? Damon's going to propose. It was as far as he could get. Michael shouted, He's what? He's going to propose. Once again, Michael interrupted. The hell he is. If you let me explain, she is not going to get married. Oh, listen, Dylan demanded. Damon! Michael had ended the call. Kate walked into the kitchen and asked, How is Michael? Dylan was shaking his head. Every time, every drama time, every damn time. He never lets me finish what I'm trying to tell him. I tried to warn him about Isabel's driving, remember? I said, Isabel likes to drive. Michael wouldn't let me finish. I would have added, but if you value your life, don't let her drive you. She's a horrible driver. Frowning, she said, and now he thinks Damon is going to propose to Isabel. Kate started to laugh. Aren't you going to call him back and explain? Dylan grinned. Now, why would I want to do that? He'll figure it out soon enough. The importance of listening. OMG. Michael is out of control. And there you can hear in the background, my friends, you can hear that my babies are stirring awake. And you know when they're awake, you know what's going to happen. You know what is going to happen when they awake. So I'm going to end the reading right here. When I come back, either later or tomorrow morning, I will finish chapters 41 and 42, and that will be the end of the reading of Grace Under Fire, and we will start another book. But right now, I can hear my babies waking up. Therefore, I am going to be off on grandma duty. All right, all right, guys. And that's where it's going to end for today. That's going to be it for me for right now. Until next time, this is Trev from Trevessence, where your journey matters. Once again, I want to say thanks to everybody who came into the live Jamaica Farmers at AG, Yard Foods, and everybody else who came into the live. Yard Foods and Jamaica Farmers Hut are currently getting watch hours as we speak. You know, I do what I do. And so I want to say thanks to everybody who came in. I will see you all later. Have a great day, guys.